In the Gemara, at the end of Brachot chapter 9, it is stated that the righteous are judged, motivated, and ruled by their good nature having the final say. The wicked are judged, motivated, and ruled by their evil nature having the final say. Intermediate men are judged by both good and evil nature. Rabbah declared, I, for example, am a Benoni. How could the Rabbah say that he is a Benoni? Said Abai to him, Master, you make it impossible for any creature to live. Abai knew that he was a Ztaddik. He knew that he couldn't possibly be a Benoni. How could the Rabbah say this? Abai argued thus, if you were a Benoni, then all those on a lower level than you fall into the category of the wicked, concerning whom our sages say, the wicked, even while still alive, are considered as dead. We see this also in Ephesians chapter 2, verse 1. You who were dead in trespasses and sin, whereon you in time past you walked according to the course of this world. So we see that is not a new concept in the Brit Rasha, but well known. And by calling yourself a Benoni, thus you make it impossible for anyone to live. To understand all the aforesaid clearly, an explanation is called for. In addition to this question, which will soon follow, that according to the common conception of a Benoni as a person having half mitzvot and half transgressions, how could a great sage like Rabbah mistake himself for a Benoni? A further question is implied. If a Benoni is simply one having half mitzvot and half transgressions, then his status is readily identifiable, and there is no possible room for a debate, as we know that you can tell a person by the fruit he bears. And it is well known that the Rabbah was a Ztaddik. But you see, the Rabbah, he didn't have an ego. And it was okay for him to say this. And also understand the statement of Job in Baba Batra. The Tanya goes on and says, Lord of the universe, you have created righteous men and you have created wicked men. For he does not decree which persons are to be righteous and wicked. The Gemara relates that God decrees that a child, how he's to be born, wise or foolish, strong or weak, and so on. However, whether the child will be called righteous or wicked does not say. This is not predetermined. So there goes all those with Calvinism doctrine that's taught in Christianity. Whether it is left to the individual's, rather, it is left to the individual's free choice. We all have free will. How then are we to understand Job's plaint? You have created righteous men and you have created wicked men. We must also understand the essential nature and mahut of the rank of the Benoni. The mahut of the Ztaddik is righteousness. The mahut of the wicked man is evil, and the mahut of the essential nature of the Benoni. He is certainly not one whose deeds are half virtuous and half sinful. For if this is so, how could Rabbah err in classifying himself as a Benoni, when it is known that his mouth never ceased studying the Torah, so much that even the Malach HaMaves, the angel of death, had no dominion over him? Such is Rabbi's diligence that he would not neglect his studies for even one moment. Qualitatively, too, his learning was on such a high plane that the Malach HaMaves was unable to overpower him. How then could he err in considering that half his deeds were sinful, chas v'shalom? Furthermore, when a person can be considered a Benoni, for at the time one sins until he repents, he's deemed completely wicked. He's a Rasha. And if he was sinful, then he did teshuvah, thus ceasing to be a Rasha, he would be completely righteous. He would be a Ztaddik. Even he who violates a minor prohibition of the rabbis is termed a Rasha, wicked, as it's stated in the Yevamot and in Tractate Nida. Moreover, even he who himself does not sin but has the opportunity to forewarn others another against sinning and fails to do so is also termed wicked. All the more so, he who neglects any positive law which he is able to fulfill. For an instance, whoever is able to study Torah and does not do so, he will be cut off. This means even if you break one, you break them all. As it says in Yaakov, James chapter 2, verse 10, whoever shall keep the whole Torah and yet offend in one point, he is guilty of them all. This is the same words as the Tanya. And it says, it is thus plain that such a person is called wicked, more so than he who violates the prohibition of the sages. This being so, we must conclude that the Benoni is not even guilty of even the sin of neglecting to study Torah, a sin most difficult to avoid and counted among those sins that people transgress daily. This is why Rabbi mistook himself as a Benoni. Since a Benoni is innocent of even neglecting Torah study, Rabbi could have mistakenly considered himself a Benoni, even though he scrupulously observed even the most minor commandment and never ceased from his studies. So, the Rabbi was really a Ztaddik, but it's so possible to maybe forget unintentionally, or maybe not fulfill something, or perhaps miss a time of Torah study, do an unintentional avero unintentionally, and there's a chance that this could happen. Did he miss these chances? Probably, most likely not. But this is the Rabbah who did not let his ego get involved and consider himself a Benoni. And so the Tanya goes on, and it even says further on, as for the well-known saying that ones whose deeds and misdeeds are equally balanced is called a Benoni, while he who has a majority of virtues outweighing his sins is called a Ztaddik. So this is the literal interpretation. But let's say we go before the king, and the king, let's say me, I am a Benoni, and perhaps have more averos than mitzvahs. This is like me going into court. Let's say I have to face the judge, and I got accused of maybe running a red light. But on camera, the proof is that I did not run the red light. I'm actually innocent. And I go to court, even though every time I came to that red light previously, I ran through it all the time. I was breaking the law. I was a Rasha, completely wicked. Didn't have no care. But this time I was actually, I knew within me I was innocent. And so when you go before the king, and the proof is presented, this is only a borrowed name, figurative use of the term, borrowed from its true usage to emphasize a particular point. Thus, the names Benoni and Ztaddik, denoting a balance between merits and sins, are in fact borrowed names. What does this mean? So, even though I'm by nature a wicked person, but on this day I stand before the judge and I'm declared innocent. This is like me standing before the king on Rosh Hashanah and saying, even though I have done more averos than mitzvot, I've done true teshuvah, I came to show proof that I have turned even this day, or the day before, and now enter into Rosh Hashanah. And Hashem says, I am a Ztaddik. Am I really a Ztaddik? Did I really overcome my evil nature? Am I really completely flawless? As we see, David, the author of this verse, was devoid of an evil nature. So he says that, and my heart is slain within me. Quoting in Tehillim 109:22, that David overcame his Yetzer Hara, having slain it through fasting. We see thus the Gemara, the definition of the Ztaddik in the true sense applies to the person who has rid himself of his evil nature. So, this is what it means by a borrowed name, that on Rosh Hashanah, I come clear, I come with Teshuvah, even though did I truly overcome the Yetzer Hara, only time could tell. But this is a borrowed name, and Hashem calls me righteous. He calls me a Ztaddik. And so this is what we were discussing in Brachos in the Talmud last night about the B'nai Maron, the sheep that come in single file before Hashem, or one by one, or through the narrow gate. And we have to come with pure hearts and love for Hashem and coronate the King, praise the King,